We are so thankful that you came out tonight to celebrate these people, these positions, our firefighters, our police officers, our teachers, our community members. We are so excited that you're here tonight to share this night with us and with them. I just came on board just a minute ago, I think, and this is the first big night, and I want to tell you right now, you have made it a great night. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Tonight's speaker, I believe the first time I ever knew anything of Mr. John Moore, he probably had a mullet. This was in the late 80s. Garth Brooks and Clint Black were just starting to spin their records. And probably the person spinning them at KNUE was John Moore. And if any of you are my age or older, you might even remember some of the antics that he pulled on air, which is the best stories I know to tell about him. He used to make these calls at like 7 o'clock, 7:15 in the morning, sometimes waking people from a dead sleep. Sometimes they hadn't been awake very long, and he would start into these crazy stories that they had no idea. Well, the listeners, it was the best thing on the radio. But he's gotten things a little more serious these days. For the past several years, he has been working in public relations and marketing area for hospital systems in our area. He's currently with, now I'm not going to get all the names right because there's too many, UT Health Center something at top. That's as close as I can get. But John has come back on. He's never left my radar, but he's been most honed in on my radar again for a book that he has just written and just published, which he does have here available tonight if you'd like to purchase one. And if you can't do that tonight, go on Amazon. They're there. You've got Prime. You don't even have to pay shipping. But John has written a book about his memories growing up in the South. You know, we Southerners sometimes tend to see things differently than others do, but his stories are very memorable to me. He wasn't born in Texas. He was born in Arkansas, but he got here just as quickly as he could, and he's made East Texas his home. He and his wife Terry live in White House, and they have a great place, and they enjoy their time on their land, and he enjoys his great hobby living in his man cave with his blacksmith stuff. I don't know what to call it, but it's really great. And I would like for you to help me welcome John Moore to our stage.
Thank you, Suzanne. Everything she said was true, including the mullet. It was a little earlier than the late 80s, but it was a mullet. Photographic evidence. I am so grateful for this food my wife left on April 10th. She has been in Virginia with the grandkids, and so to have a great meal like this. And you know, I've noticed some pretty surreal, anybody believe in ghosts? Pretty weird stuff happened since she left. I noticed every time I go to the fridge, there's less food in it. The clothes, the clean clothes, have stopped appearing in the closet. Furniture, the floor, it's dusty. So I called her, I said, does this happen when I'm not here? And she hung up on me. I guess that's what you do when you miss somebody, is you just can't talk, right? I've spent a lot of years in the radio business interviewing famous people. I also spent a lot of years interviewing folks like us. And I've always found that people like us have way more interesting stories than celebrities. When you think about actors and actresses, they pretend to be somebody else. They say words that somebody else wrote. But for some reason, we find them interesting. Think about your own life. Could anybody come up with what you've lived in your life? That's why I've always found that our stories are the most interesting. And it's the reason, kind of sort of the reason, that I wound up writing the book. There was a program on the television, I guess about 3 or 4 months ago. It was just me and my wife were there. I turned the lights down low, turned on C-SPAN, because that's how we party. And there was a young lady doing what I'm doing now, talking about a book she had written, and her name is Alexandra Zapruder. And her grandfather was a man named Abram Zapruder, and he was the one who shot the now infamous footage of the assassination of President John Kennedy. Interesting story, this guy just bought a really nice movie camera. This is 1963. Color film was very expensive. He wasn't going to take it with him. And the lady he worked with said, no, you need to take it with you. So he did. He happened to be at the right place at the right time, and he shot the only known footage of the assassination of the president. And her story was about how her family had spent all these years since managing that one moment that changed all of their lives. And it was something that she said that stuck with me after I'd already published my book. She said, every family has a story, and this is ours. My dad, when I was growing up, pardon me, would tell my sister and I stories about growing up in the Depression. He was born in the 30s, and being the oldest kid, he drew the short straw on a lot of stuff. He had to get up in the winter and make sure that the stove was going. When the house got warm, everybody else got out of bed. And back then, no one had any money, so if you wanted to eat, you grew your own food, you raised your own livestock, and that's just how it was. But he would tell these stories about what he did growing up. And as I got older, I would say to him, Daddy, you need to write these things down. It's fascinating, and people, I think, would like to read it. And he said, I want to read that. Never could get him to write any of it down. So as the internet became what it is, and I had a website for my business, I thought, well, maybe if I write some of the things I remember from growing up and put them on my website as a blog, I can send him the links, and he'll look at that and go, ooh, it's on the internet, right? I don't think it's a big deal. Maybe he'll begin to write his stories down. He still wasn't interested. So some time went by, and I was posting my blogs every week. And one day I got a call from the Tyler paper. And they said, we would like you to let us reverse publish your blog as a column in the paper. And I said, we'd want to read that. And so I said, no. I just didn't see the point. I really didn't. And I said, I appreciate it, but I just don't want to do that. And more time went by. They called again. So I finally said, what's it going to hurt? So it starts appearing in the Sunday Tyler paper, and it turns out people actually did want to read it. I started getting letters in the mail, which is the coolest thing ever. Who gets a letter anymore? Isn't that neat? And look, I got a letter. Emails, phone calls, people would reach out, and I would contact every single person back. And one day I got a call from a lady who was a faithful reader, and she said, my husband and I want to know where we can buy your books. And I said, huh? I had no books. And so I just told her, I said, I don't have any books. And she said, why not? And I didn't have a good reason to not have a book. So I thought, well, maybe if I publish a book, my dad will think that's a big deal. Maybe he'll begin writing some of his stories down. So I hired an actual book editor, and she sat down with me, and she worked on getting everything in order, getting it like it needs to be. It's going to be in the format of a book. A buddy of mine who published a book had done layout before, so he helped me with the layout. And the photo on the cover, he had actually taken back in 2004 in front of our house after we had just bought it, not far from here. Our house is not far from here. It had rained that day. It was just the coolest picture. He said, I think this would be great. So we put it on there. My dad would tell stories, I mentioned. As I began to publish more blogs and told him I was working on a book, he began to talk more about his life. He wasn't writing anything down, but he was talking. And suddenly I learned in 1957, my father was at Central High School. He was in the National Guard. And if you're looking at this now, film from, 60 years ago, my dad was, ironically, the radio guy in his unit for the colonel, and he was right there front and center when then Governor Orban's and President Eisenhower. Had a couple of conversations, and the president won. But he was there. I found out my dad was a roughneck in the oil fields in West Texas after he got out of high school. All things I had no idea. And the more he talked about it, I think the more he thought about it. And so eventually, he would jot down a few ideas and he would email it to me. More follow-up about stories he told me. We finally started putting it in writing. And I think it was this story that probably helped push him. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just read you this one short chapter from my book. This is called Gardens and Grandma. As a kid, I hated the vegetable garden. If you stood on our back porch, it was to your left, and it took up the entire corner of our large yard. You see, to me, gardens were work and nothing more. From planting to weeding to harvesting to canning, it was a waste of valuable playtime. It also took away the area of the yard that me and the other kids used for a baseball diamond. I'd watch TV and I'd see the advertisements for bird's eye frozen vegetables, green giant corn, beans, and peas, and wonder why I had help with something that the jolly green giant was already doing. Besides, he was a giant. He ought to be able to knock this out in no time at all, right? All we had to do was go to Piggly Wiggly and buy it. Well, walking through the rows during each hot Arkansas summer, the tomato and okra plants would make my skin itch a lot. The mosquitoes from the nearby rice paddies would swarm, and I'd try and swat them without spilling the vegetables that I'd been instructed to pick. I was precariously balancing my hands on my arms. My grandmother would come to our house, and I was forced to sit and help shell peas. We'd sit in a circle, and my granny would put a round porcelain wash pan on her lap. She'd fill it with a stack of purple hulls, and then one by one she'd pop that in the pea pod, and then rapidly run her thumb through it, putting the peas into a bowl on her left, the pea pod into a Piggly Wiggly sack on the floor on her right. And she did this in one seamless motion, over and over, until she was done. Well, during the shelling, which could take hours, she would tell stories of her memories of doing the same thing with her grandparents and other long-since passed ancestors of mine. She would tell me how much I would have liked one or the other, and how much they would have liked me. I asked once why we needed so many vegetables. "Oh, we don't," she said. "We'll share the extra with those who can use them." What? I thought. Why are we doing all this extra work for food we're not even going to eat? I'd patiently wait until we were finished and then ask if I could go outside and play. I hated that garden. When I grew up and married, I took Mr. Birdseye and the Jolly Green Giant up on their generous offers. Buying vegetables was easy and convenient. My children were never going to have to endure a garden. I saw to that. A year or so after the kids had left the nest, my wife asked me to clear out a square area behind our house the previous owners had used to plant shrubs, flowers, or who knows what. It was bordered with old railroad cross ties stacked 3 high. If you stood on our back porch, it was to your left, and it took up the entire corner of our large yard. When it was cleared, I looked at it and I thought about what we could do with it. And since potatoes are my favorite food, I thought about how great it would be to just be able to go outside and dig up some potatoes whenever I wanted to. But I couldn't remember how to grow them. So I called my grandmother. Using her instructions, we wound up with an amazing crop. And I'm not kidding. It was huge. My wife and I were quite pleased. Several years passed, and so did my grandmother. When we moved to the country, our garden grew. My wife planted more and more things. Tomatoes, peppers, cantaloupes, and other edibles were added. When our grandson visited each summer, he was engaged to help with the picking and the harvesting. And as he assisted, I would tell him of his ancestors, those in our family that I used to help with the garden. And I told him about how much he would have liked one or the other, and how much they would have liked him. So my father began to share stories with my sister and I via email, similar stories of what it was like to raise livestock and have a smokehouse and how they cured meat and how they canned, how that was how they ate during the winter months. You know, I don't believe in coincidences. I'm a man of faith. And yesterday morning, two things happened. There was a guy I met when he was 21 years old, and this was 20-something years ago. And he had been basically orphaned when he was 13 years old. His mother had died during surgery. She was having gallbladder surgery, and she passed away. And he never knew who his father was. And so he was raised by his minister and his minister's wife. And so he really wasn't around guys a whole lot, so he kind of latched on to me after we started working together. When he needed help with his car or anything related to what I call guy stuff, he would call me and I would teach him what I could. Well, he called me yesterday and he said, I found him. He had been looking for his dad all these years, actually looking for his father's grave, and he found his father. Well, what I didn't tell you was years ago when he first told me he was looking for his dad, he said, one day when I find him, you're going to help me write a book. So now I got to write another book. I helped him write another book. Also yesterday, anybody get the Ancestry DNA thing for Christmas? Anybody else? Yeah. So I did that and sent it off, and the results came back yesterday, not long after I talked to him. And it turns out I am 69% British. And I told my wife, I said, I think you got ripped off because I don't talk anything like those people. She hung up on me. This book was really more about me trying to get my dad to open up before he wasn't here to do it. My sister passed away at the age of 52 last August. My father and I share a birthday. We were born on August 29th, both of us. And you too? Hey, happy birthday. And my sister passed away the day before our birthday. But she got to hear some of the stories, read some of the stories that he had shared before she passed. And so I was so grateful for that. He has now begun to write even more stories. And I told him, don't worry about punctuation, don't worry about any of that. So my goal is, my next book, which I'm going to start this year, I'm going to have a chapter, and it's going to be his stories. So I say all this to say to you what I said in the beginning, which is our stories are far more interesting than any celebrity stories could ever be. Not everybody likes to write, not everybody is a writer, that's okay. We have tape recorders, we have our phones, we can video people. I would say write down your story, because you can tell your story, or other people can tell it for you after you're gone. I can't tell you how much it will mean to those around you who love you and care about you. So start writing down your stories and share those with others. Maybe you feel like writing a book, maybe you don't, but it will matter. It will matter. Anybody have any questions? Did I go over my time? Okay. I also donated a couple of books for the door prizes, so thanks for having me.
All right, well, at this time I'm going to invite Fire Chief Tim Barger, Police Chief Pat Hendricks, and City Manager Ken Connell all out. And we're going to give the Firefighter of the Year, the Police Officer of the Year, and the Municipal Employee of the Year awards.
The Fireman of the Year is an award that we give to one of our firemen that kind of shows a little extra effort during the year. At this time, I'd like to call Jesse up, Jesse Key up here.
Y'all been here before, you know, I just can't get up here and just get the award. I gotta sing or something. So I gotta tell you a police story about quick. One of the rookie police officers stopped a lady for speeding. He walks up to the car and asks me to see her driver's license. She told him, I don't have it. She said, it's been suspended. He said, well, can I see registration to your car? She said, I don't have that either, I stole the car. He said, well, it's usually in the glove box. Can you look in there? She said, I can't, but that's where I hid my gun. He said, there's a gun in the car? She said, yes, sir. I put it in there after I shot and killed the one that owns this car. Well, this rookie police officer was getting pretty excited by then. So after just a few seconds, he called the chief. And soon the car was surrounded by police officers. Chief walks up and says, ma'am, does this car belong to you? She said, of course it does. Here's my driver's license. He said, well, or I said, well, would you open the glove box? She said, certainly. Opens the glove box, no gun. Here's my registration. I said, well, do you mind if we open the trunk? Because I was told there's a body inside there. She said, no problem, look. We opened the trunk, empty too. I told her, I said, I don't understand. The officer who stopped you told us, you said that you did not have a driver's license. You stole the car. You had a gun in the glove box. And there was a dead body in the trunk. She said, all right. I bet you told you I was speeding too. Police Officer of the Year, he wasn't able to make it, but his family's here. We'll go ahead and call them up so they can be up here when I get done reading this. Son-in-law Randy Gentry and daughter Linda Gentry and granddaughter Astrid McConnell. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's a great honor for me. Like I said, I wish he was here, but if he was, I'd probably start crying. And you know, Chief ain't supposed to cry. Ain't that right, brother, Bobby? So I'm going to present this to his daughter and granddaughter. I believe, granddaughter, you have a letter. You wrote a letter, so she's going to read it to you right.
I really appreciate the award that all of you have presented to me, and I wish I could have been here to receive it myself. My daughter, Linda Blake Gentry, and her family will receive it in my honor. And I've really enjoyed my many years in law enforcement, and especially my time spent as lieutenant at the Troup Police Department. I wish the best to all the Troup Police Department, and to Chief Pat Hendricks, and all the officers on staff. Thank you.
Let me suck my belly.
It's my honor tonight to present the award for the Troup Municipal Employee of the Year. And Lauren, who is our City Employee of the Year, works in our utility department. She gets our water bills out on time. She's our court clerk. She makes Judge Meredith look good because she does his work for him. And Lauren's been with the city since 2010, and she took off for a little while to have her son, and then she came back to work and has been working for the city of Troup since that time. She is also evidently in an unofficial capacity, our assistant animal control officer. When Johnny, our animal control officer, has an animal that he can't get anyone else to take, he brings it to City Hall. And right now in City Hall is a little baby raccoon that was captured a couple of days ago. So if you come into City Hall to pay the water bill, you're going to hear some clicking and some strange sounds in City Hall, but that's because Lauren has a pet baby raccoon at the present time. So, and Lauren enjoys spending time with her family. Tonight, her children are here because they're at a ball game, so her parents have been at the ball game tonight. So Lauren, come forward and let me give you your award for your work.
I'm standing in for Mr. Brown tonight, who's our Director of Operations. I'd like to ask David Lamont if he can come up here with me just a minute. I'm going to talk about him a little bit while he's on the way. David's in charge of anything from transportation to maintenance to whatever else we might need him to do. He's been in the district for many years, grew up here in Troup, graduated from Troup High School. Really fine guy, and you know, when those buses leave early every morning, those drivers are on there, and sometimes he's one of the drivers because we don't have enough drivers. So if you're interested in driving a bus, I'm sure David will be here to talk to you when this is over. But anything that we have that goes along with maintenance, he's in charge of. I don't know if you can look around our building here right at the end of school, which is the time of the year that buildings really tend to look the worst because they've been used all year long. And you can see, this looks pretty good. And you ought to see it when we started. It looks like it's brand new. The building's been well cared for. David's in charge of working with those crews and seeing that, and overseeing those custodians and so forth through the summer to get everything fixed. You know, one of the things that I've always said, particularly about transportation, is that that's the first person from this district, that driver on that bus, that's the first person those children see every morning. And sometimes it can make them or break them. And we want it to make them. And I'm real proud of our drivers and the way they're trained and the way they're talked to. Of course, he has to take care of his problems too, work with the parents and grandparents, sometimes with issues, and bus drivers too. But he does a great job with Troup, Texas. And he loves this place, he loves the school, he loves the community, and we really appreciate what he does. And so he is our our auxiliary employee of the year.
About 5 years ago, I had a parent volunteer who was outstanding. She was on campus all the time. We convinced her to become part of our staff. And 5 years later, I am thrilled to say that Melissa Howell is our elementary teacher of the year. She has boundless energy. She is always up. She works with our special needs kids, and she does an outstanding job. She's also a very intelligent lady. She studies and is very up on her craft, and I appreciate all her hard work each and every day. Melissa Howell.
Lauren Rogers is the Troup Middle School Teacher of the Year. She came to us from Livingston, where she worked for 2 years. And I was looking for someone during the summer that had writing experience. Found her, made the phone call, and the person that I talked to on the other end of the line, curious enough, was Barry. For those of you that have been around, that's Gay Barron's son. So he was sad to lose her, and I was glad to get her. She teaches language arts for us. She does writing. Besides that, she coaches from August 1 to, well, I guess district state track meet. We may have some kids that are going to qualify. She does the varsity girls. She does all the middle school. She does volleyball. She does basketball. She's not quite right because she's a runner. She also gets up at 5 in the morning and does that camp gladiator stuff. But we're proud to have her. All the people around me are getting fit, which makes me feel good, and I don't have to work that hard. This is Lauren, and she is awesome.
Hello, Ms. Karen Ard. I'm excited to be able to introduce our Troup Independent School District Teacher of the Year this year. Karen loves teaching science. She enjoys sharing her passion with her students. She's hands-on with them and is usually creating a new activity to help students understand difficult material. Karen is active in continuing her professional development. She's been a member of the Texas Regional Science Collaborative and is also involved in the streaming of the Science Teaks in Austin. She is honored that her peers have chosen her to receive this award. I would also like to add that she started our biology boot camp several years ago, and that's the Saturday before we give our STAR test. She has the cafeteria, and she has different lab stations set up in here. She stays about 5 hours with the kids, and they rotate to each station. And because of her hard work, I don't know if it's been done in the state of Texas besides here. Every year since we've been testing science, biology, STAR test, she's had 100% passing rate. And I don't think it's ever been done before. Karen Ard, Troup Vice Principal.
Welcome Mr. Andy Griffin Jr., our coach, to present our Lifetime Achievement Award in Education.
It's my privilege to present to you Joyce Wilkinson. She was born in Waco in 1929, graduated from Waco High School in 1947. Graduated from West Texas College, which in 1961, and received her master's degree in 1967 at the University of Texas at El Paso. She traveled like a coach. You know, a football coach goes many places, but she, in her teaching career, covered many places: Amarillo, El Paso, Midland, Lubbock, Albuquerque, Andrews, and Troup. She was honored as Teacher of the Year by her peers in both El Paso and in Andrews. She began teaching in Troup in 1969 after she and Willie married and moved here with her children, Karen and Mark. She enjoyed the close relationship with administrators and teachers at Troup, such as Eugene and Kathleen McElroy, Nolan Smith, Noveline Roddy, and James Brown. They and others became her lifetime and cherished friends. She retired in 1993 after 31 years in education, with 20 of it being in Troup. She fell in love with Troup and once told Willie, if this marriage doesn't work out, you might need to leave because I'm staying in Troup. After retirement, she began to travel the state with Willie selling educational materials. In her retirement years, she enjoyed working at the Clothes Closet, Food Bank, the women's ministry at the First Methodist Church. And she was also involved with her friends playing bridge in Marjan for many years. Joyce may not have been born in Troup, but after moving here, she became a part of the fabric of the community which she truly loves. Willie Wilson, he was born in Forreston, Texas in 1925, where his father was superintendent. Prior to his first birthday, they moved to Troup, where his father was superintendent here. Willie graduated from Troup in 1943. He briefly attended Kilgore College before entering the Merchant Marines late that year. He traveled to South America, Japan, Australia, England, and the Middle East on tankers during World War II. I don't know how he dodged all those torpedoes. He served his country first in the Merchant Marines, getting out in 1947. After returning to the States, he resumed his education and went on a football and basketball scholarship to Brownsville Junior College. A letter in football, basketball, and track. He had not participated in track. That's where he got famous. He set a junior college state record of 50 seconds flat in the 440-yard dash and anchored the state record mile relay team. This notoriety prompted 13 scholarship offers, and he chose SMU. After a short stay, he transferred to Texas A&I, where he finished his education and graduated in 1951. He was then hired at Sabine, Texas, as a football, basketball, and track coach. After 6 weeks on the job, Uncle Sam called. He was drafted into the U.S. Army, and he served until 1953. He resumed his coaching career at Levis Chapel as football, head basketball, and head track coach. In 1954, he moved to McLeod as athletic director and coach of all boys sports. While at McLeod, he started his master's degree at Baylor University in the summer. He completed his master's in 1957, making the Dean's List in 1955 and 1956. After his brief coaching career, he went into educational sales and traveled all over the state of Texas for 49 years until 2005 he retired. At state sales conventions, Willie would always be looking for ways to make a Troup connection. He was so proud of being from Troup that many times while setting up an exhibit, one of the other salesmen would yell out, "We can go now, Troup's here." Willie is also very proud of his daughter, Kim, who lives in Houston. The Willie I came to know and love was always looking for ways to promote the town of Troup and the people of Troup. I can remember him going business to business, house to house, selling tickets to encourage people to come support this banquet. He also promoted building a memorial to honor all the Troup graduates who lost their lives in different wars and conflicts serving America. Willie was always searching for ways to preserve the history of Troup and promote the people of Troup. He didn't miss many ball games, and if you were there, you might get a bag of peanuts. My wife has a deep affection for Willie because he showed up with a sack of peanuts at our front doorstep the first week she had been in Troup. She was lonesome, didn't know anyone. He was the first person to welcome her to Troup. He continued to visit with a sack of peanuts over the years. Willie's heart is Troup maroon. I consider Willie and Joyce as great friends that I love and respect, and it's been my privilege and honor to present them for this recognition.
Veritas Gas Processing is the Troup Chamber of Commerce 2018 Business of the Year. And Veritas came to us in December 16 is when the Challenger plant closed. And we lost many jobs when that plant closed for a second time. And there was a lot of work going on there. And it wasn't too long before Jasper Ventures, which is the parent company of Veritas Gas Processing, came along and they invested in our community by buying that property and retrofitting it to the work that they do. Overall, Jasper Ventures family of companies employs close to 250 people. The Troup facility officially reopened its doors for business in February 2017 and was staffed with 50 people at that time. As of April 1st, 2018, this year, that number has increased to 88 in less than a year, and the outlook for future growth remains good. The 16-plus acre Troup facility has 46,000 square feet, 64,000 square feet of warehouse and covered storage space, an abrasive blast booth, paint booth, and structural steel shop, as well as 6,000 square feet of office space. They have come, they have made their presence known here in Troup and in White House. And we also have to say this about Jasper Ventures. They are truly a Christ-centered family of not just employees, they are family. And even weekly, they hold a Bible study that is open for anyone to come to in their plant, and on Wednesday mornings, I believe it is. And it's just something that we don't see a lot of in our world, but it's very wonderful to have them in our community and to bring jobs and to bring their type of work in this area. We have one more honor that we would like to bestow tonight, and our chamber president, Drew Carlisle, will make that presentation.
So, it's my honor to introduce tonight the Troup Citizens of the Year. I've known them for probably my whole life. I've spent the last few years on the chamber board with both of them. Gene and Carol Witzel, the Troup Citizens of the Year. They have volunteered for as many organizations as there probably are available to volunteer for in Troup. Have given more time and energy to the city of Troup than should be asked of anyone. They've been involved in the following, and this is just a brief list, but they've served on the school board, served and volunteered at the Troup Food Pantry, on the Troup Library Board, Chamber of Commerce, the Troup Fire Department, the Troup Women's Civic Organization, and that's just the beginning of the list, and it goes on. Without the help and dedication of this couple, these organizations would not be where they are. A little background on Gene and Carol. They were married in 1962 and moved to Troup in 1984. Gene was the superintendent of Troup ISD for I don't know how many years. He was also a principal. Carol was an elementary teacher also, and I have no idea how long, but she was my elementary teacher. Had 3 children, Michael, Shannon and her husband Martin, John and his wife Amanda, and 8 grandchildren. Please join me in congratulating Gene and Carol Witzel, the Troup Citizens of the Year.
We just had a great night tonight at the Troup Chamber of Commerce banquet. It was a hit, it was packed, the food was delicious, and the company was even better. We gave away awards tonight. We had over 30 donated prizes, which is probably the most we've had in a long time. That was excellent. And we just want to thank everybody for coming and hope to come again next year.